That's how we own it.
What's good, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And it's your boy, my son, General.
And we are your host of Street Politicians,
the place where the streets and politics meet.
What's going on, Mr. Lennon?
I am blessed and highly favored on this Tuesday morning. How are you?
It is another day. It's Tuesday. That's right. We taping on a Tuesday. It is another day of being alive. Thank God. We above ground.
Above ground, man, because a lot of people ain't make it, man.
Yeah. And speaking of being above ground, also need to be making sure we are taking care of ourselves. And I am on my way to get my annual physical today. And I realized that so many of us are not. In fact, it's been 2 years. I hated my doctor. I'm not going to lie. Like, I just have to tell the truth. She just didn't get me, and she just didn't spend time. Like, she just didn't care, really. She just didn't. And so I was very, very unhappy. And it takes time to find a good doctor, to find a different doctor. And I really wanted to be with a Black woman. Now, that's not to say that I'm against other races being your doctor, because prior to the doctor that I don't love, I had another woman doctor who was a white woman that I loved so much. She was amazing. But she moved to a different thing and out of the network and and so I ended up with this woman, and and I don't like her. So now I have a new doctor. I'm starting all over, and today is the beginning. And people just we all need to be taking care of ourselves, right? Because all the stress and whatnot that we're under, like I was saying, that I feel extremely exhausted. Yes, I do run a lot and all of that, but I also know that some of the things that I'm consuming is slowing me down. So, today I'm gonna be using all the benefits. I want the nutritionist information, everything, so I could take care of myself from up here to the bottom of my feet.
I mean, that's a good thing. I got to get on. Black men, we don't like doctors, period. I don't care what doctor you got. We just don't like it. It ain't something that we into. And, we have to change that cycle, because a lot of us find out we sick late. We feel like we just invincible. We don't want to, like, I remember just I always was one of those people that I don't want to hear bad news. Like, I don't need to go there and then you tell me something wrong with me. And from in my perspective, and there's a lot of us as men, we feel like the minute that you start telling people that they sick, they get sick, right? Because it'd be like, for years you be good, and then you go to the doctor one day and be like, hey, you got 2 days to live. Nigga be like, what the fuck you talking about? I was good. I ain't got no. Next thing you know, he losing weight, hair falling out, all of the shit. Because a lot of sickness is mental. It's, a lot of our body physical things, the ailments that definitely affect us. So I'm not saying that. But 50% of sickness is inside the mind, right? When your mind is defeated, your body don't fight, right? When your mind tells you that you're not well, when you're sick, you watch people who ain't even sick mentally think they sick, and they start to look sick. So, I think
worry. It's worry.
Yeah, because you worry. Yeah, it's stress. Stress causes, damage to your body. So I think as Black men, we have to get over that hurdle. I think that's a hurdle. A lot of Black men be like, yo, I'm just going to deal with it. I don't need to hear no bad news. I'm going to go along. So, I'm moving forward in that. I'm working on my physical and getting my stuff together, making sure.
A part of it, I will say this. We have to always be mindful that a lot of our behavioral patterns are not just things that, you saying, well, we're nervous about the doctor. We don't like the doctor because it makes us feel. It's not just that. It's that we've been taught from childhood, from being enslaved, that we were super strong and we didn't have any medical care. We had to figure out how to hustle up a little bit of whatever, live off the land in order to deal with some of our ailments. Now, that made us extremely great, physicians, if you will, that we created all the things that you could think of to heal problems. But nonetheless, we never had a culture of going to the doctor or being taken care of a certain way, because the doctor in the community wasn't for us. They didn't give a shit if we died in the fields. So I think a lot of what, these issues are things that we have to be deprogrammed from being enslaved. So That's my thoughts on that. But
Right.
today, we are moving and accordingly to accommodate the fact that I have to go to the doctor.
Actually, today I have to go to a rally. You know, there was a building in the Bronx where these elderly ladies and men were talking about how teenagers are beating up on them, hitting them with sticks, robbing them, just pretty much terrorizing the community. And it actually brought tears to my eyes, and I had posted it. And a couple of my guys that work within the Cure Violence Network have reached out to me because they found the address, and they were already, you know, saying that they're gonna go over there at around 4 o'clock. So, you know, we're gonna rally over there. But it just really broke my heart to hear what's going on. I don't, as a young man, you know, I always was taught to respect and take care of the elderly and make sure they was comfortable. And don't let them carry bags upstairs, and hold the door open, and make sure that you straighten up, you know. So to hear that teenagers are terrorizing elderly, I don't even know how we got here. I don't know what in the hell is going on, but I know it can't stay like that. So, you know, a lot of us concerned individuals and people from the community are gonna be over there doing what we have to do in that community. And next week, I'll give an update on what happened. You know, hopefully we'll be able to bring the, you know, some clarity and some unity to the community. A lot of these young kids are really just being misinformed, man, and being taught a culture of violence, and a culture, I call it coward culture, that doesn't do anything for them. And it's because they've learned it. They're not naturally like this. It's what they've been taught and what's been being incentivized in today's society. So, you know, we're going to do that.
Well, you know, I think that it is true that there is a change in culture, but I will say that even when I was young, while there was much more protection for elders and children, there's always been an element of our community that terrorized everybody, right? They robbed the elders. I remember it was a thing going on in the projects where they was throwing old people down the stairs, trying to rob them first of the month. In fact, I had a neighbor who, between her own children who were addicted to crack and other people, you know, that was like out there hunting at the first of the month, she used to give all of her money to my parents. It was more than one person in our building that did that. They had to give their money to other people that they think, you know, thought would protect them. So there's always been an element of it, but it seems like it's become cool, because that wasn't cool. If you got caught doing it, just like you guys are going to the community today, people would really approach you, and it could be a real serious situation. And by the way, you don't know whose grandmother or mama or friend or whatever you are offending or harming, and people had to deal with that, like seriously, when we were young. So, you know, I'm glad to see that you guys are going out there, making sure you find a way to figure out what is wrong with these kids. Like, what exactly is the issue? What is it that you need? Or do you think this is fun? Because if you think it's fun, we're going to let you know it's not fun. It's not going to happen. But if you have a need, if something is wrong, then let's try to figure out, and I'm glad Cure Violence will be out there with you. What exactly is it that you are trying to accomplish? So anyway, so I have been for the last several hours in a long debate with a number of individuals, you know, privately, about an incident that happened in Atlanta just yesterday. So by the time people hear this podcast will be on Wednesday. So Monday, a woman in Atlanta, sound like she's from the islands. I don't know which one, but she certainly sounds like she may be of Caribbean descent, but a Black woman. She killed 2 individuals and injured 1 person, shot them. And of course, you know, at first the speculation was just kind of like, what happened? Like, everybody's like, oh my God, you know, the woman just goes wild and just shoots people. But then it became clear that she actually targeted these individuals after going to the police to report that the 2 people she killed, one a building manager and second the engineer in the building she lived in, that they broke into her apartment and they broke into her safe and took some of the things that she needed for a lawsuit that she had been very public. I'm hearing that on LinkedIn. She was talking about this lawsuit, and you know, she had been out there pretty much saying that she was a whistleblower and was reporting some individuals, and she had all of this stuff on a hard drive. Sounds like some of it may have been connected to the same building. I don't know, but nonetheless, she had been, you know, she tried to go get the police to, first of all, take her situation seriously with the robbery of her home, but also to change the police report from just, you know, a dispute to a robbery, to an actual robbery. The officer that she videos this encounter with the officer. I don't know if you had a chance to see this.
I haven't exactly got to see it yet, but yeah.
So she videos the encounter with the officer, where she's anxiously trying to explain to the officer, and the officer, very, very passive aggressive, is like, you know, you just have to, you know, basically one thing that the officer is saying that I completely understand is that she can't just go change the report. It doesn't work like that. Again, it's what we've been saying. These officers also are caught up in a system where they are the way in which they are told to handle things is dangerous. Like it's not helpful for them. It's not helpful for the civilians or anybody, because they're telling her that she needs to go call a phone number for the burglary department. And we already know what that looks like, to try to get somebody to listen to her, to potentially fix the, you know, come and investigate the situation and determine whether or not it's a robbery. They said, well, we didn't, the lady said, well, you know, the report doesn't say there was breaking and entry. She's like, but they have keys. It's the building manager and the engineer. So they have keys to my apartment. There's no breaking and entry. So she's explaining this and anxiously going on. The officer takes a phone call right in the middle of her talking. Then the officer is frustrated because the lady is cutting her off trying to explain herself. And the officer basically, you know, starts writing on her paper. And you know, finally she responds to the lady and she's like, you know, listen, I'm going to say it to you one more time. I get it. She done told the lady the same thing over and over again. This is just what it is. You got to talk to the burglary department. The woman turns around. Then, so there's another lady there, Mice, who she is obviously, this woman had been trying to talk to first, and they went and got this sergeant. So she turns around and I see the lady behind the desk say to the sergeant, thank you. Like, you know, let's get this lady out of here. But there's one thing that the woman said. She said, I will, what did she say? She said, I'm going to go talk to the burglary department. And whatever happens, happens. So she says to the woman, the officer goes on about her business. It's done as far as she's concerned. This lady left and became the law, which is completely wrong, outrageous. There's no excuse for it. But she went and shot and killed these individuals and injured another person. From my perspective, and I think, you know, for today, my thought of the day is, why are we so insane that we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? It is very clear that this woman, either because of other things in her past and or the stress of the current situation, was aggravated, and she is not in her mental complete stability because she went to the airport with the same clothes on with the gun. So obviously she's not right. This officer is unable to either identify it or doesn't care. But the woman is with her trying to solve the problem and nothing happens. America is crazy because now people are dead, either because they went in her house or not. She still did not have the right to kill them. But this is what people are going to do if they feel like they can't get help, especially with the mental health crisis that we're dealing with in our society. I don't know. I don't know what we are going to do, because that woman could kill any one of us if she whatever the situation. And it's not just her, but people are going to the police, and 911 is not the place, unfortunately, to get help for too many things. And certainly if you have a mental health crisis going on at the same time while you're trying to deal with somebody potentially breaking in your apartment.
I mean, it's a lot. People, you get it's like pretty much what happened with OJ. Like, but he didn't kill the people. Like, those people stole stuff from him and had his stuff, and he went to get his stuff back. Like, people are at some point, right? Human nature kicks in, right? They're emotional. They're not trained to deal with certain shit. They don't, they just figure out, I got to protect myself. Somebody did wrong to me. This is why we live in where we have to have law, and we have to have things to establish things, because we know that human nature, that if you're not given a boundary, that the average person will cross it. If there was no penalties for violence and all that, it'd be a lot more people getting stabbed and killed. A lot of people just don't want to deal with the consequences. So what happens when you deal with individuals who don't give a fuck about a consequence, who have made up in their mind that you've done something wrong with it, and they're not able to either discern or understand, or mental health gets to a point where they've blacked out, they've left in absent of consequences, then you have these situations, right? So what happens is the police and all of these people have to be skilled enough to understand that I have to make each individual a level of priority. Because when somebody's losing their things, their lives, women come in saying they've been hurt, this and that. When they don't see that you take them seriously, or you prioritize their situation, then at that point, they take matters into their own hands. This is not anything new. This will consistently happen. And I think police officers have to do a lot better job at understanding the situation and looking and prioritizing and looking and making people feel like because you're supposed to protect and serve. And when you're not doing either one of those things, but yet and still you're one of the highest paid entities in the world, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Because why do I have to call the burglary department? I'm standing here, here, right now. And you might, and she might have said to her, you know what, ma'am? Right at this moment, we don't have anybody that can deal with it. But if you go back to your apartment within 24 hours, we're going to send somebody there, or don't go to your apartment so you don't have fingerprints, to whatever it is. But it wasn't taken seriously. So your point is 100% right.
So, as we come up on our topic today, there was another news story that, that pretty much made me think about it, right? Because I always get a lot of flack about voting and all these things, and who's the lesser of two evils, and Trump and Biden, all this bullshit that we hear all the time. And I understand. I kind of get it. Right?
It's bullshit. You can't say it's bullshit.
But it's bullshit. The reason why I say it's bullshit, because I think in the situation that we were talking about, it was clear what we were saying, right?
What do you mean?
I think when we were talking about Biden and Trump, there was a clear understanding of why we said we are voting against Trump. That we made it clear that we were voting for a better opponent. We made it clear that we didn't trust anything, but we just didn't feel that Trump had anything positive for us at all. We made it clear that we wasn't the biggest Biden fans. We wasn't on no Biden, but we made all of those things clear, but people just wanted to just have something to say afterwards. So I think that's why I say it's bullshit. So now there are two former judges who sent kids to jail for kickbacks. They were getting paid to lock kids up for low-level crimes and send them to these private prisons. And this was in Pennsylvania. And they were ordered to pay over $2 million to $200 million to hundreds of people that they victimized. And I'm saying to myself, and these were Democratic elected judges. They were elected by Democrats.
Philly, these are the Philly cases?
Yes.
So the saga continues, because this is something we knew about, the pay, what was it, Kids for Cash? Yeah,
this was in Philly. This decision was just handed down where they had to pay over $200 million, on the 18th. So, and it made me think, a lot of people are saying, Does it even make sense to vote? Should we be voting? You know, and if we're saying we should, why should we, right? And I have a perspective, I'm not mad at anybody at this point, right? I'm not, and I still share my thing. At this point, I'm not mad at anyone who's completely fed up with the system, right? We look at everything, and there are, you know, everywhere you look, it doesn't seem like anybody's doing anything for Black people. You know, I understand why Black people saying, fuck a vote, I'm just out here doing this. But then again, for me, you know, when I look at the situation, I always say, we have to live in America, right? And if you're somebody who actually pays taxes, has a job, are going to be affected by the laws that are handed down by these government officials, right? Then you will want to be able to say, okay, it's like for me, I want to be able to say, all right, this policy that this one candidate has is something that I know can benefit me and my family and my people, right? So I'm willing to vote for this because of that. I'm gonna look at both candidates and say, how many policies are they are trying to pass that can accurately and positively affect me and my people? And then I can weigh both of them. It's not about, I'm not choosing my best friends. I'm not choosing allies, you know, and I think that's where a lot of people don't understand. Is like when you do business and personal is different, right? When I go into a business situation, I'm not doing business with the person that I want to go out and hang out with at the bar, the person that I think is cool. When I'm sitting down and I'm doing business with somebody, I'm saying, what is the person going to do to accurately affect me? And I think, you know, I think that's what people miss inside voting and whether or not to vote, because you're going to be affected anyway. You're going to be. So if you don't like either one of the candidates, then you got to find something that the candidate is passing or proposing to pass that you like, right?
Or you have to push for it, or you
Or
have
you
to.
have to push, and then you have to find a candidate that you feel that you have the better opportunity to push to do the things you want, right?
But sometimes both candidates are complete trash, right? And I get that. And my thing is that I also understand, but there are people, and some of them are our friends, who believe that they are living outside of the system, especially in the sort of finance space. And you know, in some of the pockets of our movement, they're like, none of that stuff matters. I'm not concerned about, and we've talked about this before. They're like, I'm not concerned about voting for any of these people. To hell with everybody, fine. My thing is, that's actually not true, because even if you're in crypto, if you're in real estate, if you're in anything, whatever business you're in, they have tax codes, they have laws that are being put in place to govern even those things. And in fact, the more that people are getting into sort of online trading and crypto and all of that, the government is looking for ways to put more stipulations around it. Now,
they've been doing it a lot lately too.
Right now, if what you want to say, because some people don't want to say it, but the truth is that under a Trump presidency, there was much more flexibility and sort of williness going on in terms of how this stuff was handled, right?
I mean, it benefited, I think when it benefited wealthy people, I think, or
people who are trying to become wealthy.
Yeah, I think, and if you're in the know, but I think the people, the common people, the average everyday individual,
right?
It's no trickle down. The whole, like, that's what I heard this the other day, that the theory of trickle down is not realistic all the time.
And that's our thing. And I think that's what puts us in two different positions with some of our counterparts in this movement. It's not that what they're trying to do is not important, because if they're able to find ways for us to be more financially stable as a community, it does help us, because you can hire more people, you can open more businesses, you can clean up the community and what have you. but there still has to be people that are holding down the fort in terms of what the masses is experiencing in the moment. So if you have elected officials that are allowing the projects to go down, rats running around people's houses, water, lead poisoning in the water, you're not with your new project or your long-term project around real estate and crypto and whatever other finance things and some of the other, important things that people are doing. You cannot solve for X for, I'm just making up a number, the 300,000 people who are living in NYCHA. You can't do that, not in that quick second. So somebody has to be focused on making sure that we have people in office who are not putting Supreme Court justices on the bench that are going to overturn every single law that we have that was progress in some ways, at least in some ways for our communities. If you're not going to, we don't want to have a president in place that is allowing federal courts to be packed with conservative judges who are also in line with some of those Democrats that's sending our people to prison. So we have to have folks who are working on multiple tandems. And it's not easy. Of course, it's a difficult thing. And then in terms of what you said about the Democratic judges, it's people in our own family, right? It's people in our family that share our last name, people we love or people we're close to, people we would die and fight for, and they ain't shit. They ain't no good.
That's a fact.
They kill, they sell drugs to our people, they harm our people. You got people who are sexually abusive or physically abusive to women and children. It's all of that. So of course, within Democrats, independents, Republicans, whatever, you can't trust everybody nowhere. It's always going to be people that go against the grain and do things that's harmful to our community. It doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, we can only vote for Democrats, but to the point that you keep making, show us the Republican agenda that is aligned with the things that we need for our community, because every bill that we have supported or been a part of trying to get passed, the Republicans have shut down in terms of progressive for our communities. So, that's just where and I'm not, that doesn't mean that I'm happy with the Democrats because they know I'm not. But I still know what it is that we're looking at. And I think building another party is going to be extremely important.
Well, listen, what do y'all think about this topic? What do you think? Should we be voting? Should we not be voting? What should we be looking for? Is trying to pick between two parties that we know really don't align with Black America's agenda. Is it useless? Like, tell us what you think. We want your input, want your feedback. Let us know how you feel.
So speaking of this topic on whether or not we should be voting, it's a sticky topic. I mean, since you invited people into the comment section to tell us how they feel about it, I think that it will be a spirited conversation. The comments will be very, very interesting. But we are being joined by our friend. Our running thing is that we've got a lot of great friends in great places doing great things for our people and our communities. And Tezlyn Figaro is no different. Now, I like to say she is not just a political analyst, but she's also a political architect, right? A political commentator. And she also busts down on people every single day and helps them understand what the hell is going on in the world from the language that our folks know how to understand. So she is what I think, I don't know who has given her the title, the Hood Whisperer. Okay, Charlamagne gave her the title, the Hood Whisperer, but we are being joined by our dear sister Tezlyn of Straight Shot No Chaser, which is also a podcast on Black Effect Network that our brother Charlamagne the God is giving us the opportunity to run our mouths and try to educate the people. So thank you, Tezlyn, for joining us today.
Always. Thank you for being here. It's always great to be among family. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Ted. So what do you think? We had a topic of the day and we were talking about, should we be voting? A lot of people saying Black people just should just sit the elections out. We shouldn't be voting. And we know, you know, how your perspective, I know how in depth and organized and what it is that you actually represent inside of this culture and how what you bring to politics. So first, give us your opinion of that.
Well, before she says that, though, I think we need to tell her about the story that you would basically my son.
Okay. So, well, I know you've probably seen it. There was these Pennsylvania judges who were just told that they had to pay $200 million back for families that they had locked up their kids, and they were selling them to private prisons for low-level crimes, some of them for jaywalking. They even had a video. It was actually a Caucasian young boy who went to jail for something, I think drug possession, and they locked him up, messed his whole life up, and he came home and committed suicide within 5 months. So, and these were Democratic elected judges who did this, right? So a lot of people are like, what are we voting for? Like, it don't matter, Democrat, Republican, they all doing the same shit to us. So, you know, that was the basis of the topic. So just wanted to get your input.
Well, judges' judicial seats are not Democrat or Republican. So even though they may have leaned that way or identified as a Democrat in something different, I don't know in this particular case, but just overall, most judges across the board don't run as partisan seats. Doesn't mean they're not Democrats or Republicans, but overall, they're usually not partisan. We'll have to look more at that case to give to give a precise answer on that. But it is important that we understand the difference between nonpartisan seats. Your city council seats in most cities are nonpartisan. Some are, some are not. Some mayor seats are nonpartisan. Some are, some are not. Your county commissioner seats, your elected positions that could be precinct chair or soil and water commission. There are a lot of seats, school board seats, for example, that do not lean partisan, Democrat or Republican, but yes, these are still real people with thoughts and ideas, and you can find out how, if they're registered as a Democrat, you can find out if they voted as a Republican. So when I say nonpartisan, it's not that we're pretending as if they're not partisan, because they do, but it is important as we're educating our people to understand that there are nonpartisan local seats that affect your everyday life. And when people say, hey, you know, I don't do politics, I always say you don't have to do politics, but politics most certainly does you. So if you don't have an understanding that everything that you do is politics, I mean, literally everything, you know, we always like to say we outside. If you literally go outside and look around, everything is affected by politics. If you don't like how they put restrictions on running your water, there's an actual commissioner in most cities that take care of soil and water. If you feel like you don't have enough stop signs in your community, if you feel like there should be more street signs, if you don't like the traffic, there's a metro plan board that talks about the traffic. So there's always elected positions and appointed positions that are managing our everyday lives. So I try not to criticize folks, Mysonne and Tamika, who have gotten so disenfranchised, so fed up, so over it, that they say, you know what, I just don't see how it's making a difference. I feel that, I get that. I try to spend more time on people who actually say, I want to do something to change the system, because me trying to convince folks, you got to vote, you should be a part of the process, be a part of the process. I find that my time is more productive with like hosting the training that I'm doing, you know, upcoming in Atlanta, more productive with people who say, what, you know what, I am tired of it. I don't want to chase them. I want to replace them. And how can I get involved? Should I be a candidate? Should I be an organizer? Or should I be an operative? So me, myself, I try to be a part of the solution, still talk about the problem as a commentator, but obviously, you know, provide the solution. That's the most important thing to me. And so I will say this, I've worked on campaigns, state, local, and federal. And this is very important that people understand this. When folks are out there, you know, trying to get what we call their win number, they're going after those super voters, those super voters. So when you know that only 100 people are coming to the polls and 150 people are saying, I'm going to sit out, you're actually giving them more favor to only have to try to galvanize those 100 voters to come to the polls. If you look at those local elected positions, city commissioner, I was looking at one race, it's over 800,000 people that were registered to vote in that district. Only 1,100 actually showed up at the polls. So you're actually doing a favor when they're able to just galvanize just that small group of their circle, their church members, their co-workers, you know, the folks that go to school with their children to allow them to get these seats. So I tell people that if you want to get out of the process and you say, I don't want to vote, well, then are you at least running somebody in that seat? Are you at least causing some type of disruption? Are you giving people a second option? Because just sitting out, we've done that, and that's not working either. So I think it's a collection of those things, but I also think it's my sign important that we hear some people say, you know what, I'm not going to vote for you. Politicians hear that. They hear that, and they should be responding, because I don't know if it's just positive to keep saying, well, we're just going to vote no matter what because our ancestors died for it. We have to create some opposition to at least give them something to fear. So it's a collection of all of those things, if that makes sense.
Makes 100% sense to me, Tez, and I say that all the time. And it was a real important thing you said, and that's what it is for me. Understanding that when I don't vote, it's not so much that it affects any part. What it does is I'm not somebody that they have to get a vote from, right? They move me out of the pool. Like you said, there's 800,000 people there. And if they only know they have to appeal to 11,000, then all the 700, the rest of those people, they don't matter, because the vote is going to be decided by these 11,000. It's not like it's being decided by the 8. So when you take yourself out of the number and you make it easier for a certain demographic to appeal to just one or two specific groups, and they can just win a whole election with 6,000 votes, then you're doing a disservice, because now nobody really has to work that hard, because now you're not even involved in that number. So like you said, when you start saying, okay, I was a part of this and I'm not going to vote, and we start saying that publicly, and I'm moving towards doing this, and I'm having action items towards doing this, and this is what we're collectively going to do with our votes, with our power, then that makes more sense than just saying you're just not voting.
I think it's important also for us to be very honest. There are people who are righteously indignant. They just tired, right? They just tired. And then there's people that's just lazy and they don't want to do it. And they're looking for an excuse not to participate in the process, because to your point, there are people, Tezlyn, we talk about this all the time, running for office like a Nina Turner and others who we know, we might not agree on everything, but we know they're going to go there and fight as like hell for many of the things, majority of the things that we know we need in our community and in this country. And guess what? Did you give them some money? Did you help Nina Turner at all? Did you help Jumaane Williams, who was running for governor in New York? Money, support, knock on doors. So when we do have the potential with certain candidates, some of those same, I don't believe in politics, I'm not going to vote, those same people don't show up. So I think what you are talking about, and we want you to tell us more about something that you're working on right now that is super important. What you're talking about is none of us get to stay out of the process. There's a process. When those 11,000 people decide on behalf of a community of whatever, 100,000, 200,000, 800,000, you as the other folks that did not vote, you still gonna live by whatever is being decided by the small majority of folks who most of the time don't look like you, right? Because in these communities, like in the community I live in, there's a lot of diverse folks here. And guess what? When I go to the polls, most of the time, the white people, the Asian community, and some of the other community members are there. They are the ones who are deciding school board elections all the way up, district leaders in my community. I'm sometimes the only Black person in the polling location, unless it's obviously running for president and things like that. But on super local elections, those people are making decisions. So being a part of the process does not have to be just the vote. I got it. Votes are really important. But it's also supporting people financially, helping people run for office, knowing how to organize campaigns, right? So it might not even be that this person is well, let me say this. There are candidates that don't have the resources to run a strong campaign. And if you are at home and you have 2 or 3 hours to donate, why not do that? So that you can help them and volunteer so we can have strong electeds in position. So that's my position. And I think what you're doing right now is working on helping people understand there's more than one way to slice the cake. right? So tell us more about what you got going on, because I think it's something that's extremely powerful, something you've been working on, and something that is so needed for our people.
Mhm. Well, I have always, I come from the recruiting industry, my corporate side. I was a branch manager at Adecco and Robert Half. That's the first and third largest staffing firm in the world. I ran my own staffing firm with 300 employees in Orlando. I have always used that recruiting model, that matrix-driven recruiting model in the political space. It's one reason why in Orlando, I was able to get so many different volunteers in 3 weeks' time, 300, 500, 150 overnight, because I've always had that matrix-driven recruiting model, which means that people are not going to recruit themselves. You have to actually go out and get people and bring them into the fold. And so by using that model, having a master's in adult education, I'm saying that because I want people to understand that when I'm building curriculum, I'm building real curriculum with real program objectives, that you're actually leaving with substantive information. And so I train all throughout the year. I train and consult. I do that far more than I am on TV. Being on TV is great. Commentary is great, but I'm about rolling up my sleeves and actually doing the work. But I wanted to do something then this year in particular with offering something free for folks to, one, understand that yes, they have a part that they can play, push the line, politics until something happens. If you look at my logo, you see each person is pushing, it's one person pushing the P, the U, the S, the H, and it's a child standing beside that's watching. And I do that because people, if you look at the logo, people are doing what they can to push. You have two people in street clothes, two people in business clothes, and they're not looking on the side of them to say, well, what is Tamika doing? Well, what is my son doing? Why you ain't doing it? No, you need to be focused on what you can do to move the process forward. So by doing that training, politics until something happens, offering a nonpartisan training, we did, I did one in the summer. We had 246 people that came online. I did a second one. We had over 200 people. Now our goal is to get a couple hundred people in the room in Atlanta for September 10th, totally free all day long, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., back to back to back core curriculum, nonpartisan training, not a summit, not a panel, not an interview. I do all of those wonderful things, but there's been a missing to me. There's plenty of great trainings. I've been to them. I've been to CBC. I've been to PCCC, ABC, 1, 2, 3, you name it. I have probably more than likely attended the training. I thought there is obvious, not thought, I know that there's a missing component that can allow people an opportunity to truly train nonpartisan. Although I went to Congressional Black Caucus boot camp in 2010 and they said it's nonpartisan, I still left feeling like this is how to be a good Democrat. I went to PCCC, that's the Progressive Caucus boot camp. I was a trainer on Crisis Comm, and it was still about how to be a good progressive. This is a training that is designed for you to pick a track, a candidate, an operative, or an organizer. An organizer to me can be anything. Do you want a new park in your community? Do you want to organize a protest? Do you want to organize to get an issue like reparations or whatever it is? Insert the blank. It is so critically important to me that people understand when I say nonpartisan and non-agenda motive focus, that's exactly what that means. And I've reached out to different allies in the movement to say, hey, I am giving you my word as a woman that there will not be any agenda pushed on this, because I want to see if those folks are willing to say, you know what, I'm not just going to complain online. We're going to start running our own candidates. Even folks who we may have different opinions on things. There's been Black conservatives that have reached out to me, far right folks, far left, far in the middle, whatever you want to call it, that say, hey, I want to be a part of it. How can I be a part of it and show bipartisan support? And I said, you can't show bipartisan support because it's nonpartisan. So I tell people that if you want to make sure that your issue is pushed, then come to the training and let's give people a challenge, Tamika. People contact you all the time. We talk about this all the time. People don't know what to do, what to do. And I push back on that because people do know what to do. They just simply don't do it. But there is a group of folks that I believe truly don't know what to do. But we know how to do everything else. We share leaked photos, which I love, by the way. We share leaked photos. We know how to get concert tickets. We know how to find the VIP. We know how to get on the list. We know how to find everything else that motivates us. We find trash online all day, comedy and gossip. So do we really want to believe that people just don't know how to go to a city council meeting or how to go to a state board meeting or how to go, and so I'm putting the challenge out there that this is an opportunity for you to learn the steps. Literally, step 1, this is how you fill out your paperwork. Step 2, this is what you do with your paperwork. Step 3, and you insert the blank. And I'm not going to allow folks to come and get on a soapbox about how we need to be this and how we need to be that. We already know what we need to be and how we need to be. This is an opportunity for you to learn, take those tools back, and you organize around whatever you feel is important in your community. And so this will get a chance to see, are we really about that? Or are we just wanting to talk and create more chaos online, more of the clown caucus, opposed to the action caucus that actually wants to put some skin in the game?
Well, first of all, I love the way you get at them. I don't even watch Fox that much because I just don't watch it much. But whenever you on there, I love your perspective, and it's always nonpartisan. It's always just coming from the realist perspective. And I'm sure that's what we're going to get with this training. When exactly is the training? Where is it located? How can people, get involved with it?
Absolutely. Text push the line, all one word, push the line to 66866. The training is September 10th in Atlanta, Georgia. When you text, all of the information comes directly to you, how to register, the FAQs, any questions that you have. It has been very highly organized. I've sent out several surveys confirming. So people have been getting the information that they need. All they have to do, my sign, is text that number. But if you are not in Atlanta,
What's the number again?
Text push the line to 66866. If you're not in Atlanta and you say, I want to be a part of this in the future, are you doing an online training? Yes, I am. I'm doing one in November. Still get on that mailing list. I would like to have the next one in New Jersey in person in January or February. I am committed to making sure that 2024 people have set in some type of training one way or the other by 2024. That's what I'm doing at my own personal commitment. Not a PAC, not an organization, my own skin in the game, to show people that you can still do something, just one person. How do you take that talent and bring other people into the fold? And so it is open to anybody. It is truly nonpartisan for real. It is open to anybody. Text push the line 66866, but get on the mailing list, because we're going to continue this online training. We're going to do deep dives into subject matter training. For example, I would love to have you guys, if somebody wants to talk to you about this down the road. Hey, we want to learn how to protest. I know Linda offers that training with you guys all the time. Would love for her to tap in, do an online training, so folks can have access to that. So I'm trying, Tamika, my son, to build, I don't want to say institute or an organization, but some type of way that we can streamline people to be able to say, hey, when we want to get something done, there's a place that we can learn. And it's also important, if you're a candidate and you want to run, you're going to need an operative. Come to this training, if nothing else, just to organize and see who else that you can work with. And they don't have to live in your city. I've worked on campaigns long distance. Regina Hill, who won in Orlando, Florida, I managed her campaign from Oklahoma City at the time, working on the House Claw case. And she was in Orlando, Florida. And she was arrested 21 times, y'all, 21 times. And this was her first time running for office. She won by a landslide. First time, beat 7 candidates because she was out there knocking on those doors. And it was just a handful of us to help her get elected. So it does not require a huge team. You just need 2 or 3 right soldiers that's willing to put the line.
Exactly. People who are dedicated. And I was saying earlier, and you also said, some folks just lazy, don't want to do it. Other people, they say they don't know, but we figured if you can figure all these other things out, you can also figure this out. I've been saying that for a long time. But also, I think that a lot of people just haven't been introduced to it, right? Like your mama talked about gossip and trash all the time. Or it was fun in the community to hear about who's Zooming who. So you've been exposed to that. You've been exposed to your Christianity. You've been exposed to, the way we cook, soul food, different things, good hair, whatever, but you have not necessarily been exposed to being a politically astute individual. And that's something that I think you're now going to provide for the average Joe, an opportunity to touch and feel it. I remember when Yandy and I first started working together, she would say she had not been invited to the rooms with, Melanie Campbell and all the women who were working on, political issues from a Black woman's perspective. She hadn't been invited to those spaces. So she didn't even know that she could go into those rooms and participate and add value. Now that I introduced her to those spaces and made her comfortable, she's going on her own. She, has started sort of moving in that direction on her own. And I think that's what you're now providing, is an opportunity for people to touch and feel it so that they know there is room for them and they are valuable in those spaces.
But I want to throw this in the game, because a lot of times, Tamika, when they hear us say that, they use that as an excuse. Well, I'm waiting on somebody to be invited and I ain't ever been exposed. Well, I sent you an inbox. When Tamika go, let me be crystal clear. I was never exposed to any of this. Nobody in my family's in politics. Nobody's in my family in law. Nobody set me down. I didn't go to no community meeting. I was never a part of this. I was exposed to the strip club. I was exposed to the hustlers. I was exposed to the ballers. I was exposed to gang banging. That's what I was exposed to. So for those who are listening, let's not use that ain't been exposed, somebody invite you bullshit.
But that brings us to a good point. Yeah. Why did you get involved?
That's exactly it. I had to give a damn. I had to give a damn enough to know that just because they didn't invite me in the room don't mean I'm not going to bust the door down and walk in. So it had nothing to, I was exposed to having confidence as a woman. My mother worked at a television station, but she was a secretary. She wasn't on TV. And even then that was traditional TV. It wasn't like it was opinion TV or what I do, but nobody was in politics in my family. Both of my parents right now are in the grave. I started my staffing firm with a 3-month-old baby on unemployment, making $250 a week on unemployment in Orlando, Florida, in a city with no family, no friends, no nothing. This is called hustle, period. And I never got a loan. I never got anybody to put me on or introduce me. Every room that I've walked in, I had to bust my ass to walk. That's why I talk with the bravado that I do. Because when people try to push back and say, well, you got play, I had to build this. I had to go on talk radio for free for years. I had to go on blog talk radio for $39 a month. I got this from the hustle to the muscle. So anybody that say what you can't do, I had to give a damn enough about it. So because I had enough homies that got locked up from the 94 crime bill, I got louder and louder and louder about that, because I went to go see Spud and went and put money on commissary and went 1,500 miles to sit, in the penitentiary to find out what does it really look like when a first-time nonviolent offender does 15, 16 years away from their family. Because I'm involved in that, I had to use my voice. I knew that God put me in position. This was a calling. This was not exposing to nothing. Any room I've been in, I knocked the door down on that bitch. So we want to be crystal clear. For those who are saying, because it bothers me when people, it's easy for you to show me where it's been easy. Show me what part of the grind has been easy. I tell people, what if I told you right now that for 20 years, you're not going to make $1? Would you still do it? What if I told you right now that you're going to have everybody against you? Would you still do it? What if I told you you had to move in 5 different cities? Would you still do it? What if you had to be homeless? Would you still do it? What if you had to move 14 times? Would you do it? If you had to stop and start your business 3 or 4 times, would you do it? I did it, homie. So we don't want to get no confused about getting invited no damn where. We're looking for people that got the balls to bust the door down, to walk in the door and claim your rightful position. And if you don't have that level of energy, no problem. Just support somebody else then. Send somebody $5 or $10. Everybody don't ride the same way. But when we talk about those rooms, I had to walk into it, baby. And it's very few. Even now, when we just look at just the inner circle of people that just really rock with me, I've been looking at who've been sharing this flyer. Yeah, I'm keeping names and receipts. I want to know, you gonna share it or you ain't gonna share it? Because next time it's too small of us to not, at least if nothing else, just share the flyer. Why you can't share the flyer? You're gonna need me to share something, and you better believe when these people who said they're gonna share it and ask me to share something, I wish they would. I'll make sure. No, remember when I asked you to share? That's the accountability that we have to have, because this shit is too hard to me to be around here playing. When all it takes is a simple share,
Yeah, so I know that's right. We deal with it all. My son, you go ahead and you speak.
It's like everything you listen. I say get him, Tez, because you ain't doing nothing but preaching the gospel, man. This shit is about only the strong survive in this. This was a calling on my life. Like nobody in the world thought I'd be doing. I didn't think I'd be doing this. I was, like you said, we was in the streets, and I had to sit down for a while. I had to understand how the system was actually plaguing us and taking us over, to come up with a different mind frame and say, yo, I got a different voice. I know I have a level of power and strength, and I have platforms, and I have people that actually respect me in a manner in the streets that I know that I can shift the mind state to, because if we don't shift the mind state, we're going to die or be in these prisons forever. So that was my mind state. And a lot of people like, oh, this and that, and this, do it. You know, you ain't doing this. Why you ain't talking about this? Why you ain't, because why you ain't talking about it? Because I'm talking about the shit I feel passionate about. I'm going to use my platform, my voice to speak about whatever I feel passionate about. And I suggest you do the same thing. But if you coming on my page to look for me to talk about what you think I should talk about, then you're wasting your time. You know what I'm saying? So I understand exactly what you're coming from, you know, and it's not easy, but we got to support one another in this fight, you know, because we all do it different ways, but we all do it authentically. And when you know you do it authentically and you see somebody else that does it authentically, you got to give them that support. So that's why you know you always going to get my support.
Yeah,
Well, I wish we had more time to sit and talk to you today, but I am going to get a physical. And I'm very excited to tell everyone that today I'm getting my annual. I'm going to be checking myself from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, and I'm suggesting that everyone do the same. And as a result of that, we are not able to stay and talk as long as we want. But I really want you to come back, Tez, because I want to ask you this question. We're not going to answer it today, but this is what I want us to answer together. With the attacks that we have been through, why would anybody want to put themselves in our position, right? Like, why would anybody want to walk in the fire that we've had to walk in just because we dared to speak up, to speak truth, and not to back down when the attacks come for us? And I want us to talk about that. And I think there's some other people that we should invite to be a part of that conversation as well. Even though I'm gonna tell you, I don't know many women who have gone through what we've been through specifically. I'm not talking about people in political positions who have been hit. I'm talking about folks who are just trying to do what's right. And we taking punches left and right. And a lot of times nobody is there to support us. So that's why I love you.
I want to say this, and I know you got to go, but this is really important because I want to end on this, you know, and especially we hear in hip hop a lot, the GOAT, the GOAT, the GOAT. And I always try to end my messages with this. And in the Bible, they talk about the wheat and the tare, and you'll hear people say the wheat and the tare, but the New International Version talks about the goat and the sheep. And this is very important. So while folks are saying, oh man, you the GOAT, you the GOAT, you're the greatest of all time, I want to be crystal clear that when you say, oh, they haven't been introduced to it, and maybe somebody got introduced them, and maybe they just don't know, let me tell you when you're going to have to know. And I'm only talking about the believers. If I am wrong about it, Tamika, then guess what? I'll just disappear into existence. But let's just pretend for just a moment that I'm right about it. There's going to become a time where you're going to have to answer. And when you go to the Most High, the question is going to be asked. They are going to separate the goats from the sheep. And the sheep is not about going along to get along. The sheep is about the shepherd's business. So either you're going to be about the shepherd's business for the least of these, or you will be the goat. So it doesn't matter if you're the greatest of all time on earth, whatever it is that you're doing, there will become a time that you are going to have to answer. And the answer will not be, well, I sent Tamika an inbox, they never responded, well, I was waiting on my sign to talk about it. The question's going to be, what did you do for the least of these? So either you're going to do it, and I'm putting that calling out there right now to everybody who's listening. You can't say you ain't been told, because I'm telling you right now, you have been told, you have been challenged, hopefully inspired, but more so challenged. What are you going to do for the least of these? And I'm glad to come back and have more in-depth conversation, because that answers your question. We've been called for this. Many are called, but few are chosen.
We have been called, and you know, and I hear you 100%. You just got to do what you got to do. It's not about being introduced, but I do think that your training is an opportunity to introduce some people and get them closer to the water. So, but they're gonna have to drink on their own. And I think that's the point that you are making. Thank you, Tezlyn. We love you. We appreciate you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Love you, Tez. Tez, get him, Tez.
So as I get ready to go for my physical appointment that I have to
yes, because you got to get your physical. Got to get your physical. But shout out to Tez. Tez always gonna give you a word. She was Reverend Tez today.
That's a mental physical. I got my mental physical, and now I'm going to get my body physical.
Yeah, that was Reverend Tez today. She gave us a word. You know what I'm saying? I definitely make sure that y'all sign up for that course. She said pushtheline.com. You can go on there and get the tickets and sign up and register, whatever it is that you need to do.
Free.
For free. But you need to be there, because it's a lot of us who are not politically savvy, who do not understand why politics even matter, saying they don't do politics. And like she said, if you don't do politics, they'll do you. So we're going to end on that note. I had a ball. Tamika got to go get a physical.
A ball doing, what did you have?
I was listening to Reverend Ted. She was listening. She be dropping scriptures. So I'm just sitting there like, as she drop it, you know. But what I don't get is why y'all always worried about us. That's how I'm gonna end it. I don't get how y'all always worried about us instead of worried about you. Worry about what you can do. Worry about your Instagram page. Worry about how you using your Facebook followers. Worry about how the videos that you doing. Worry about when you outside, because we outside. We've been doing this work. We're gonna keep doing this work. So leave us alone. Do your part. If you don't got a part, then get out the way.
Because they want us to be accountable. Okay.
And accountable. Listen, I'm accountable every day of my life. I know what I do with my 24 hours. Do you know what you do with yours? I'm not gonna always be right. Tamika Mary's not gonna always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace.
Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWomen.tv.